What's up? What's up? How's everybody doing? It is freezing today. What a cold, cold day. But I'll tell you, what an exciting week. Cybertruck was finally announced last week. They finally did the big reveal. And, I got to tell you, like, I'm very excited. So, I talk a lot about Tesla, talk a lot about Bitcoin. So when you're an investor, it doesn't matter what the company did yesterday. And I think that's a mistake that a lot of people make. Like I made that mistake when I first started buying stocks. And, I thought because you were so good yesterday meant that your stock was going to go up. And you'll see that people will do really well on earnings and the stock doesn't move. And you're like, well, oh my God, they made all this money this quarter because their forward guidance is so bad. So what you have to be obsessed with when you're investing is what is the future of that company that you're investing in, whatever it is, whatever your investment is, what is their upside? Because that's what you're paying for. And and I'll just show you like my portfolio, my allocations. Now I have some friends that are financial advisors. They're probably going to freak out, but I believe in disruption. I believe that let me just hide this. I believe in disruption. I don't believe in ETFs. So my bag is 43% Tesla today, 41% Bitcoin. So the two biggest disruptors of our lifetime is what I'm pretty much all in on, and then Solana and CleanSpark. And that's another video to talk about those. But just to show you. So as a Tesla investor, I'm very excited about what I saw. And it's for another reason. I'm going to tie it all together in the end. There was three things that I saw that I've been deep diving this Cybertruck all week. There's three things that I saw that are very exciting, and I think they bode well for the future. So for those of you that don't know, this is the Cybertruck, right? Very divisive look. A lot of you probably hate it. Some of you probably love it. It doesn't matter because in 2 to 3 years, every car is going to look like the Cybertruck. The Hyundai Santa Fe, the Hyundai Tucson, the Kia Sorento, the Nissan Rogue, they're all going to be Cybertrucky. And if you don't believe me, okay, let's think back. 2005 Chrysler 300. I love that car. I used to have one. Comment below if you had a Chrysler 300. And when the Chrysler 300 came out, it was very divisive. And what did the Chrysler 300 have? It had those high doors. They moved the belt line up, and everybody copied that look. Even the Toyota Camry eventually copied that look. So I promise you, if you hate this truck, love this truck, it doesn't matter. They're all going to copy the look. Everybody's going to be looking like a Cybertruck, okay? So, here's what it looks like. They finally revealed it. They put the pricing out. All good. Doesn't even, I just can't believe, guys, it's been 4 years. So this is the clip from 4 years ago that everybody remembers, right? When they revealed it 4 years ago and they threw it and it was supposed to be bulletproof glass and the ball broke the glass. So that's, everybody remembers that. All right. So the three things I got out of this week, and I'm going to explain to you at the end why they're so important. So number one, what they did, they went to 48 volts, okay? And they rewired the car and they used less wires. Now think about this for a second. Every car, a whole life, has had a 12-volt battery. 12 volts. And that came about in 1955-ish. Okay, so think back to your cars back in the day, the amount of electrical requirements to what they require today. My father had a 1982 Mercury Zephyr growing up. I remember this car. It had headlights. It didn't have air conditioning, right? So let's think of all the electrical stuff. It had a 12-volt lighter. It didn't have power windows, didn't have power locks. It had a little switch that when you open the door, the light would come on in the ceiling, right? It had a dash light, a dome light, very, minor stuff. And this has been the standard for all these years, right? It has been this 12-volt battery. So what Tesla figured out was like, hey, look, we're putting all these electronics in cars. It's too much. Like it's too cumbersome. It's too expensive. The battery can't keep up. So what Tesla did, they went to 48 volts. And by doing that, if you understand electricity, right, it's the higher the volts, the thinner the wire, right? It has to do with current. I don't know. I'm not an electrician. I have some great friends who are electricians. Chime in and explain it. But basically, what they managed to do was by increasing the volts from 12 to 48, they were able to use 77% less wire in the car. because they didn't need it. So the weight of the wire, the cost of the wire, right? All of this by just switching the voltage. And what's crazy is nobody has done this. And another thing they did with the wiring, so we're nerding out here, but it's all going to come together in the end, I promise. Another thing they did with the wiring was, a typical car, everything is wired back to a hub, right? So on a door, you have a door lock, that's wired back to a hub. You have a door window switch, wired back to a hub. You have a speaker wired back to the hub. You have the thing that activates the dome light when the door is open. So if you open your door, you have this like thing with all these wires in it. So there's just wires all over the car. But for the past 30, 40 years, we've had the internet. And the internet runs on Ethernet cable. So what does Tesla do? They wire the car with Ethernet, right? So they've just cut. I mean, look at this. This is all that's in the car. It's nothing, right? So they just wired everything in line. So everything's always listening for that data to come through, right? And it's like, all right, the window's always listening to go up or down. The speaker's listening, send me a signal. The door lock's listening, and my door lock. So it's just like a network. So amazing what they did to just redesign the wiring of the car. So that's key. And what they did that I thought was awesome, right, was they sent out this guide. Supposedly, they sent this guide out to every CEO of every automaker, how to design a 48-volt vehicle. And this was a rumor, right? I thought this was just a rumor. But here's Jim Farley, the CEO of Ford, saying, hey, I received the document today. Thanks. So they were like, hey, guys, the automotive industry sucks. We made a 48-volt vehicle, which is what all of you should be doing because that's the future. With all the computers in the cars, it's difficult for us to get what we need through the supply chain. So here you go. Here's the secrets. Take it, roll with it. Okay? So I just thought that was such an Elon thing to do. I love it. All right, so that is the first thing. All right, so the wiring, the voltage, and it's all going to come together. All right. The second thing they did, steer by wire. So what does that mean? Right? So steer by wire means that there's no physical connection from the steering wheel to the wheels. And that just sounds scary, right? You're like, oh my God. Well, airplanes have been doing this since the 80s, right? Airbus started this in 88, fly by wire. Your car, your gas pedal is not connected to your engine physically. It's all computer controlled. I think the brakes are pretty much the same way. They're getting there. There's a lot of things. So and what they're doing is they're simplifying how you build a car, right? They're making it, more inexpensive, right? And the less parts you have, the less stuff that will break. So that's kind of like a visual representation of that, right? So there's no more steering column and there's all less parts. The whole thing is just way simpler. All right. So remember that. All right. So cheaper simpler way to wire the car using a lot less materials, simpler way to design the steering system. Okay. And finally, the last thing they did, okay, was the exoskeleton, cutting out the waste. All right, so the Cybertruck is a truck. This is how trucks have been built for 60 years. This frame right here, all this frame. And when you look at a car, any car that you own, it's all this frame underneath and then all this sheet metal on the outside that really is just for decoration. So you're basically building the car twice. So what Tesla did is this is the sheet on the outside. So they have these two big aluminum castings, right? That's like the front and the back of the car. They tied it all together with the batteries and they dropped this on top. And all this is on top is literally this steel. Like they invented this alloy. It's called HFS, hard effing steel. All right, you know what the F, it's Tesla. I love it, right? But that's what they did. They invented their own steel for the exoskeleton of the car. So they basically designed the car. They cut out all the extraneous stuff that people have been doing for all these years, these frames that just rot out, all these parts, all this weight that you're lugging around. They just cut the waste. So if you look at it, and that's what a normal truck frame has looked like for 100 years, okay? So that's what the Cybertruck did. So I'm looking at it now as somebody who's an investor in Tesla. I'm excited about the future. What is so important about these three things? Right? They totally rethought how to build a vehicle, right? And they cut out a lot of the waste and they did it very simply. And it's so genius what they did because it's so simple, but nobody ever had the cojones to do it. So the future for Tesla, right, is, again, if you ask me to describe Tesla in one sentence, it's an AI company that makes cars now. And the makes cars now part is the next step for them to gain market share. It's all about price point. So everybody talks about the Tesla Model 2. Okay, that's the big rumor that's out there. Elon kind of hinted at it at a couple of interviews this week. These are just people's ideas of what it may be. It's something smaller than a Model 3, but the key to the Model 2, quote unquote, is the price point. And this is what's mind blowing. Okay, I'm going to show you this graph. This is from ARK Invest. Okay, so you would think, right, if a car is $50,000 and you cut the price in half, that you would double sales, but it's not doubling. It's like 17 times more sales. So a $65,000 average sale price gets you probably 3% of the total addressable market. So 3% of buyers can afford a $67,000, $65,000 car. If you can get that price to $30,000 or below, you pick up 50% of buyers. So think about that for a second. If Tesla can build a car that is below $30,000, what is the market share that they'll gain? What is the market share that they'll gain? And it's 17 times more market share than a $65,000 car. And that's what blew my mind when I'm watching this Cybertruck reveal and I'm watching all the coverage on it. And I found these three things. These are just three examples of many. But these three examples right here is how you can build a car for under $30,000 and make money, because they make 15% margin or more on their vehicles, when most people in this space are losing 100%. CEO of Ford, Jim Farley, Ford pays $100,000 to sell a $50,000 car, right? Tesla makes 15% margin. And there's so many other factors of why getting cars on the road. But imagine now they put out a $25,000, $30,000 Tesla. They're actually making money on it. You have 50% of the total addressable market that can afford your product, right? And then you look at, okay, well, how are they going to charge it? All these different things. BP just committed to $1 billion worth of superchargers. So now when you have that many more cars on the road that require that infrastructure, other companies are going to invest in that infrastructure and put it out there. And bam, the company just grows. So when you invest in a stock, you have to look at the future. That's what you're paying for. And right now, we live in a time of disruption, right? It's probably, like, think back in history. When has there been disruption like this? The 1800s, when we had the Industrial Revolution. Complete disruption, right? You have to think things don't grow linear anymore, right? Like in times of disruption, so normally you would think, right, things kind of grow like this, right? They kind of grow at a steady pace over time. But what happens with disruption is things grow and then they become exponential and just kind of go straight up. Just like this graph right here of the total addressable market. That's disruption. So, if you think the Industrial Revolution, what did that do for production? It went from manpower to machine power, totally changed the world, okay? Henry Ford in the early 1900s invented the assembly line. Today, every company today that uses an assembly line owes that to Henry Ford, okay? Totally changed the world, changed everything. The computer revolution, right? What did that do for e-commerce? Bam, right? And now we have AI. And like I say, Tesla's an AI company that sells cars now. And it blows my mind. Sometimes I'm like, dude, maybe I got this all wrong. I don't know. But nobody is looking at it that way. And yes, the Cybertruck is divisive. Look, I want a Cybertruck now. I'm nerding out on it. I want the damn thing. But it doesn't matter to me if I buy it or not. But it's just, you look at what they've done there and the engineering changes that they've done and how they're pushing things forward. Like, if people thought Tesla was ahead of them a week ago, they're like 10 times ahead now, right? And the more cars they sell, the more cars go on the road, the more the AI grows, the more the company grows. It's insane. So this whole thing this week with the Cybertruck was just all about the future and it made me realize how they can build a $25,000 electric car and actually make money on it because of stuff they innovated here on the Cybertruck. So I don't know, man. I'm just totally blown away. So shout out to Elon. Shout out to the engineering team at Tesla. I mean, what an amazing vehicle. And all of you that hate it, I get it. It's divisive. But I promise you, everyone's going to look like us. Every car company is going to steal parts of this design and put that into their cars. It's just what's going to happen. But I mean, so that's the future of Tesla, I think. That's what is the most amazing part to me about this Cybertruck and what they've done and how they can build those cars to get this exponential growth. All right, guys. So, hey, thank you so much. Tell me if I'm wrong, if I missed something. I want your feedback, please. I'm always challenging my thesis, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care.